So Ben, I really appreciate your time today, and you're a really hard guy to catch, and I know that how busy you are. So, and I've been following you for many years. I've been seeing what you're doing. So, I really appreciate you being here, and welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. And I'm living the caravan lifestyle at the moment, working from home, as you can see.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
the cool setup I'm looking at with you, but
No, no,
I hope you
no.
don't mind.
I think it's all about financial freedom. You've achieved the financial freedom, and that's like it's a dream of having that extra time. So I'm just curious, what's financial freedom to you, by the way?
It's just choices.
Mm,
So I thought when I first got started that it was about becoming a millionaire. I thought it was about having stuff. I thought it was about a certain dollar figure in the bank and a certain dollar figure of income. And
mm,
now I realize financial freedom is so much deeper than that. It is the choice to show up as the best version of yourself every
mm,
day,
mm,
to choose the work you do, to find meaningful work, to spend more time with people you care about, to, as with us, like we sort of holiday 8-10 weeks a year now,
mm,
work 4 days a week, have incredible teams of great people that we love working with that help us. And just,
mm,
like for me, a lot of it's around consciousness as well, like actually getting out of the grind and the survival and the cortisol and like the living paycheck to paycheck to actually being able to thrive and choose your adventure as opposed to sort of just let the wind blow you to wherever you want to be.
definitely. I think you touched a bit of point about leaving the paycheck. A lot of people are thinking about, okay, I'm going to stay in a job, work 9 to 5, and that will be my whole life. But you somehow broke free from that. How did you transition into financial freedom? Like, did you read books and do courses? How did you transition to all this knowledge as well?
In terms of the actual transition point, I got a really big kick in the bum. I actually got sacked from my previous employer.
What were you doing?
Um, I was trying to buy his business from someone else,
Yeah.
and he just obviously, as I would, definitely had a problem with that. Looking back, I definitely could have done it better, and I could have, told him what my plans were, which was to go into ownership for myself.
Mm,
But you sort of live and you learn. So I was thrust into financial freedom, if you know what I mean, and chasing this lifestyle. But before that, exactly the same as yourself, like started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
mm,
Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Die Rich. Then went down the Jim Rohn, the Dennis Waitley, the
mm,
Tony Robbins stuff. Sort of figured out like the mindset for achieving things, and then really became obsessed with and focused on property, and bought my first property at 24. And now
mm,
I'm 34. I've sort of bought 12 properties and made some massive mistakes and learned some good lessons that'll
yeah.
set me up for the next 20 years.
What was your first property like? What was it? It was a fixer upper.
Man, it was definitely a fixer upper.
Yeah, okay.
We have a running joke, like it was the worst suburb in the area that I grew up.
Okay.
It was the only property in the entire area, which was the Sutherland Shire of Sydney, that I could afford.
Yeah, okay.
And the building we bought in, it was a 2-bedroom unit with city and water views.
Mm,
Paid 360,000 for it in 2011,
okay.
and it was in like the building, like there's a laughing joke, it was like a crack den. It was that bad, man. It was like 40% housing commission, 40% drug
Wow.
addicts, and then young people like me trying to get into the market.
Yeah, okay.
It
Like
did get
strip rent
cleaned up.
downstairs.
Oh, it was a shocker, bro. Like it was as rough as you get.
Okay.
The guy that was actually running the body corporate, I didn't know anything about property. When we first bought it, we were paying about $400 a quarter in fees.
Okay.
It went up to $6,000 a quarter.
Oh.
The guy that was managing the body corporate
Mm.
ended up going to prison for embezzling all the money from our
Oh,
building for
wow.
3 years. And I didn't know the better at the time,
Yep.
money back.
Okay.
But, big lesson.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay. So then what were you doing before that? Like, did you just have one job or I think I heard in another interview you had about 3 jobs, right? And you were just
Yeah, I was working
yeah.
hard. Like, a lot of those guys start out same as yourself by sort
Mm,
of having a job that pays
mm.
the bills and then a side hustle or a way to help people. So I was working at IBM in their global graduate program at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I was earning 45 grand a year.
Mm,
And then I had these little government grants that I was earning on the side from some work that I learned how to do at university, making
Yep.
up about another 20 grand a year.
Yep.
And that was it, man.
And you
Just
saved
saving
everything.
my
Yeah.
money and
Yeah.
and you know, the good old days in 2011, you could put down a 5% deposit, no lender's mortgage insurance, no stamp duty as a first time buyer. So it was
Yep.
very easy to get into the market.
Yeah, it's not easy to save money, especially in Australia. You know, we want to go to pubs, we want to enjoy ourselves, right? But you were scrimping and saving. You had your goals, right? So,
You know,
yeah,
I was still
yeah,
going to the pub with the boys, like as a 24-year-old, but that became pretty old for me pretty quickly. Like I was more interested in, you know, once I figured out financial freedom could be a way out of like the really poor background I came from, I was, you know, I didn't need to be sold on how to get there. It was just a matter of which way and how long it was going to take me.
yeah. Okay, so you're saying that the poor background was your motivating force that pushed you to achieve your goals, because some people, like, you know, get pulled. They need to be pulled towards the goals, but you know, your background pushed you. Yeah, you don't want to be living in that, you know, that lifestyle like you did before, right? So, yeah,
For sure, man.
yeah,
Like, I remember seeing this guy speak once, and he said there's a few different ways you can get to where you want to be. And my way was that unfortunate bulldozer approach, like a lot of people that come from a poor background, which is just work hard and smash through every barrier in front of you. But that takes a
yeah.
lot of energy. And, you know, as you said, now it's much nicer to have a vision that's pulling me towards where I want to be, that's based on a different way of thinking than I was brought up with. You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely. Okay, so and I also noticed that you talk a lot about financial freedom through granny flats as well, and I think that's a really great strategy, granny flats. So could you tell us, you know, what you mean by that strategy, investing in granny flats, and how you can be financially free?
Yeah, so I spoke to this client a few years back, Dave, and he'd never earned more than $100,000 a year. And he, over the last 25 years, had bought 3 houses in Sydney at really good prices, and then he'd built 3 granny flats on them. And by the time he came and worked with me, this was about 3 or 4 years ago, because he wanted to buy in Brisbane. He didn't have the skills to buy up here, but he knew what he wanted.
Yep.
And he owned these 3 houses and 3 granny flats completely outright, worth about $3 million, giving him $3,000 a week of income.
That's crazy.
And when he told me what his income was, I'm like, what the hell? Like, it just didn't make sense. And he's like, when you get the long-term capital growth out of these properties from buying Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, and then you actually get cash flow that allows you to pay them off faster as well. He's like, it's instead of the old capital growth or cash flow strategy, it's merging the two. I really listened to that. I actually sold 6 of my properties that were just single income at the time, and completely reorientated my life and started to create this passive income much faster than I was planning on. You know, completely one conversation just changed my life.
Okay, so
You know, 'cause sometimes you learn things that are a bit easier than what you were doing. And it's like, I'm one of those people that was happy to let go of the attachment and ego to that and to just immediately move into something that was going to get me to where I wanted to be sooner.
Yeah. There's so many strategies like that. No money down. There's fixer upper, but it all seems really complicated. But for your strategy in terms of granny flats, put a granny flat at the back. Find a location where you know, the vacancy is going to be good as well. And if you get like the cash flow through there, that's enough to just pay your bills. I think I saw one of the emails like $15,000, you know, passive income per year for one. That's amazing.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And these are simple numbers. Like, this was buying a 400K home, putting down a 10% deposit, so 40K, building a 120K granny flat and putting down $30,000 deposit on the granny flat.
Yep.
You know, so you're effectively spent 520K in total. You're getting 660 to $700 a week of rent.
Yeah.
And with today's interest rates being so low on that scenario, you're literally looking at 12 to 15 grand a year of passive income from day one. You know, most people can stomach that. It's not like you're going out there and spending $1 or $2 million in Sydney or Melbourne and getting $600 a week in rent from it.
Yeah. I saw the property prices in Sydney is just stupid. But in Queens, in Brisbane, amazing properties. I think I saw one for 275. It was 4 bedrooms somewhere. It's just ridiculous. And with the whole coronavirus now, I think, you know, property prices are dropping as well. So Yeah, like, do you think there's some really good deals to be snapped up at the moment?
Yeah, I feel like the marketplace has already reset in the last month by about 5 to 10% in Sydney and
Yeah.
Melbourne, and by about 5% in Brisbane.
Okay.
Then if you know how to access off-market and distressed sales, there's an ability to pick up 10 to 15% below market value right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure how long that's going to last. Like, there's some positive stuff coming out from CoreLogic, SQM, and the other big data analysts to suggest that it's going to be more like a V-shaped recession than a
Yeah.
really deep U-shaped one,
Mm-hmm.
which is positive. But, that actually unfortunately shuts the buying window for people like you and I that were,
Mm.
hoping to capitalize for a couple of years rather than just 6 to 9 months.
Mm, definitely. Yeah, I think I was interviewing another guy, and he said it's not really a financial recession. It's more of like a health impact. It's really just a health crisis. So,
Mm.
and obviously once the health is all cured and everything, it's just going to bounce back up pretty quickly. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting there. Okay, how about finding these granny flat, like these good locations where you can deposit these granny flats in there? Like, what's your advice there?
Yeah, it's a good point. So for any property that I buy for a client or myself,
Okay.
there's 5 things. I always want to be timing the right market.
Okay.
So Brisbane and Perth right now are cheaper to buy than they were 12 to 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That is good timing. It's kind of like buying Sydney or Melbourne in 2011 before they were twice as expensive like they are today.
Okay.
So timing's one, capital growth is two.
Mm-hmm.
Capital growth means buying 600 square meter blocks, and that's what you need for a granny flat as a minimum.
Mm.
It means buying within 20 k's of the city or on the beach in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane.
Okay.
It means buying the best suburb, the best street, the best pocket.
Mm.
And then on top of that, I want cash flow. So that's where your granny flat comes in.
Yeah, yeah.
Generally, you want the front of the property to be at least 15 meters wide in the suburbs that I look at. That gives you like enough access down the side to fit the granny flat on the site.
Mm-hmm.
You normally want the house at the front of the block so that you've got a huge backyard to comfortably put a nice fence in so that the front house has a big yard for the family that will rent it. And
Yeah.
then the backyard's got its own little granny flat with its own yard so that that's attractive too.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, you mentioned manufactured growth before. I like to buy a bit of a fixer-upper, but most of my clients want something super simple.
Mm.
And then I like, as an income earner, the same as yourself, it's nice to save a bit of tax. So the brand new granny flat gives you about 3 or 4 grand a year back at tax time, which isn't much, but it's handy. You know what I mean?
I love that. I think I saw a video of you explaining it on how it's good to have like a driveway that goes all the way to the back of the house, and the granny flat isn't facing the back of the house; it's facing the other direction. So therefore, the tenants have got a bit of privacy. I thought, yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it is true. You got to have that little access there, and if you're living in a granny flat, you want that little privacy there. So it makes it more attractive.
We try and create like a really functional front home that doesn't take away anything from the home. So we get the maximum rent and the maximum privacy, and then, 6-foot fencing with privacy screens. So it's really completely blocked out. And then, as you said, like the orientating the granny flat so that it's separate and you're not having that awkward looking over the fence vibe where people don't like catching their neighbor's eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. And okay, so you're director of Pumped on Property, and you provide these services that helps people buy these good properties, right? That you can position the granny flats. Can you tell us a bit more about your services that you provide?
Yeah, so I don't have to do a plug, man. I just prefer to add way more value to your
That's good.
audience.
Yep.
We just help people, a small number of people each month, buy really high quality properties. Mainly in Brisbane now, 5 years ago in Sydney, and we just learn from history and try and make better decisions moving forward so people can get financially free. Like it's a really simple family business, man, that tries to do the right thing, backed with quality data to make better decisions. And it's no more complicated than that.
Yeah, that's great. And okay, so when you're because I go on social media, there's a lot of people say, oh, you should quit your job, start a business and everything, but there's other people that says, just don't worry about it. Hold on to your job, save up for those deposits, and then buy those investment properties, and then you retire. Would you advise them that's a good path? Just hold on to your job, doesn't matter about that, and just save up those deposits and then eventually be free through property. Is that a good strategy.
That gives me goosebumps hearing you say that, man,
Yeah.
because that is the truth, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not, it has nothing to do with what you earn. It has everything to do with the quality of your plan and the decisions that you consistently make over the next 15 years. So whether you're working, if you're working in a job that you can stomach or a job that you enjoy, keep working the job, you know what I mean? And just take that active income and turn it into a passive income stream over time. If you are like me, which I was basically unemployable by the end of it, man, like I was such a shit employee. I just
He's not
couldn't
going to listen to
stand
anyone,
working
man.
for anyone, man. I would listen to them, but I would figure out how to do my job in like 2 days a week and just be bored shitless.
Yeah.
And craving more, but, you know, always working for people that, you know, like that only had so much to give me. And so I was, you know, I needed to move into business, but unless you can sell, unless you can lead people, unless you can negotiate, and unless you can market, if you don't have those skills based on what you've currently done in the past, then I don't think business is a good step. In fact, I think it massively, for most people, increases their risk and takes them further away from financial freedom.
Yeah.
The only reason you go into business is if you can back yourself and you've got the skill set to make a lot more money.
Yeah.
Because there's man, like there's a hell of a lot more things going on in the back of your mind at night when you're running your own business. Like the stress sometimes isn't worth the reward.
Yeah. And it takes many years as well to earn a certain income. Like if you're working in a job, you can be making about 80K, maybe 100K if you're pretty skilled. But in a business, it might take you years to get that to that level of income. But then, you know, you might miss out on those opportunities for the capital growth for a house if you purchase this house when you had those jobs. So it could be that as well there. So
I worked for as long as I could. Like I think I was 29 or 30. You know, if I hadn't got kicked out of the company by my ex-employer, I'd probably still be working there. You know what I mean? Like I really enjoyed it. I remember coming home, like I just had my second baby. She was 4 months old and just crying, man. Like I was I felt like I just let my family down. I didn't know what to do. And I said to my wife, like, what are we going to do? And I ended up actually, because I'd been working in an office environment for like 10 years, I needed a change. So I went and just labored with my brother-in-law. Like literally he was doing fencing at the time, and just was on site with him for 6 months while I got my real estate license. And my wife's like, you know, we just have to have a try at you doing this, because it was my absolute passion, man. Like I think I'd bought 5 or 6 properties by that point. We had a bit of financial freedom going on, and you know, I was ready to help. I just you know, didn't have that confidence to sort of take that leap, and it was sort of thrust upon me. It ended up working out, but you know, if you were starting this same business in 2020 versus 2015 or 16, like very different market. Like not everyone's going to survive it.
That's true. Yeah. It does take a lot of guts to to get through all the adversity that we're going through at the moment, right? So
you know, what about you with your business, man? Like how do you find this market? How do you find like the balance between working in a nice, well-paying job versus what you're trying to do now?
Well, obviously, when working in a high-paying job, I was making over 6 figures, and then you know, I made the decision to make the leap. And obviously with business, you know, it's a bit tricky because you're working even harder. You're spending more time trying to get clients as well. But I think if you've got like the basic skills, like, you know, lead generation, know how to sell and close, just like what you said, you know, you can pretty much get some clients and then slowly get creative and try and get some retainers and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that you got to think about, right?
For sure.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. So yeah,
you know, I remember when I was working for someone else and I was working towards financial freedom, and I was like frustrated that I wasn't getting there close enough. And I think everyone can empathize with that, man. It's like, you know, but now I'm like, if I could talk to myself 10 years ago, I'd be patient. I'd really focus. I'd obsess on the plan. And then once I had the plan, I'd just work one tiny step at a time towards my goal. Like, you know, in the last 6 months, I've been saving my bum off for a deposit for another place. So that's all I was thinking about. And just yesterday, I got my deposit for my next place. And now, yeah, it's like a big deal, man. Like no matter what you're earning, it's still the same game. You know what I mean? It's like tighten the belt, save your bum off.
Yeah.
Hope that I'm not spending $400 a week at the cafes at the moment.
Yeah.
Economy going. I didn't realize with like my family how many times a week we're eating out and how much money I was wasting.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm ready now. My next step is to identify which suburb, which area, which I've done, and my next step is now to patiently wait for 2 or 3 months until the perfect home comes up, and working one step at a time and being super present while you do it versus all of the stuff. How long did it take you to get the confidence to jump out from 6 figures to $0, man?
It takes a lot of years actually. Like, I mean, it's not my first business. I've done it before. Where I was working part-time and then I had my business, and then I already got a bit of experience there. But as I went through with you, you just get tired of the whole corporate thing as well. I mean, it's okay, it's like golden handcuffs, but once you it's just crazy,
just enough money to keep you there, just enough responsibility to make you feel like you're doing enough.
Yeah, man. But it frees you up a lot of your time, obviously, and you're looking at a lot of creative ways to get clients, and then just to try and accelerate things. But at the back of your mind, you're thinking, I got to be investing in property. I have to be building my portfolio. I'm really busy in the business, so you got to juggle that stuff. And sometimes you fantasize, maybe I should go back to a job and actually just focus on investing, right? So
It's funny you say that, man, because I was so heavily into investing in property when I was working for someone else. And then I started working for myself. And for the first 2 years, you need to build up the tax returns to borrow money again. And then, as you said, like you can get caught up in making money in your business and thinking you're making progress. But if you're not investing that active income into a
100%.
passive one, you're just working harder for more money that can go out the back door. So after that second year, I put a plan in place and I've consistently worked towards what I wanted to. And I see my business as a funnel, same as my job, to just pay off debt and buy assets that give me income. And, unfortunately, not that many people think that way. And that's why it takes them 40 years to do something that they should be able to do in 10 to 15 with the right plan.
I love it. Okay. So how about, so if I think you briefly mentioned on this, right? Let's say that you were to go into a time machine, press a button, go back and talk to yourself 10, 15 years ago, what would you say to your younger self?
Like, fucking relax, bro.
I love that, man. Fucking relax.
What about you? What would you say, man?
I would say, man, just, try and go faster, try and do things faster, get some results first, but don't be too hard on yourself, I mean, like, we tend to beat ourselves up too much when things don't go well, right? But try and start a business a bit earlier, and then or just do all these things earlier, but then get results. But don't be so hard on yourself if it doesn't work out. So that's my one. But yours, relax, bro. Love it.
I was, it was like a goal-orientated personality that, had something to prove in my own mind. I've always sort of ran my own race. So I've definitely got blinders on now in terms of like just listening to my own internal voice. But I put so much pressure on myself, man. Like I used to have like years where I'd set my goals in January and have 40 financial things to tick off and hit 39 of them and feel like I'd failed the year. I used to have a goal of doing X amount of blogs a week. And if I didn't achieve it, like I was same as you, man, like just so like such a whip on my own back for no reason. I wish I had have known that. I also wish I had have, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't podcasts when you and I were getting started 10 years ago. Like how cool is it to be able to plug into someone that's where you want to be and just follow their story? So I was like trying to create a plan, but now I would spend, like I said, more time on getting the plan right than actually just constantly taking action like I was. Like it was basically back then, save, invest, nonstop. But now it's like slow down, make sure each step is crucial, take less steps, but higher quality steps, and completely trust that if you do the activity, you will get the result. It's just the thing stopping the result today is just the time. And so I get that now. I'm super patient. I'm very aware of what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it, and I know what I need to do. And it's just slowly taking that action and having a really, really good lifestyle around that. You know, I always had a good time doing this. So like my wife and I always traveled and always spent a lot of time with the boys and always spent a lot of time with the fam. Like we didn't sacrifice what's important, but as you said, when you're being so harsh on yourself all the time, it can sometimes pull you out of the present if you're constantly living in the future.
That's true. That's true. You seem very, very calm and very balanced person. Like, you know, yeah. Like, do you get emotional when deals don't work out, or like, or is there some sort of process, or what's your like, or you're very analytical when you're, I mean, like you said, you got a plan and just execute the plan, and if things don't go well, you know, do you get?
You know, with experience, I'm one of those very, very lucky people that, you know, I'm so analytical in the way that I approach investing. In my personal life, man, I'm an emotional mofo that, you know what I mean, cries over movies and, you know, is cuddling the boys at 3 a.m. when you've had too many beers and, you know, like, like, you know, just all this same stuff. But this is a business to me, man. Investing is a business, and I've learnt the rules. I've put the plan in place, and, you know, I've bought 12 properties in 10 years. I've placed offers on another 30 and walked away from them. I've bought $300 million worth of property for clients now. It's like, it is a full-on game. And if you're not emotionally attached to the game and you just follow the rules and the numbers, then it'll always work out. Every time I lose a property for myself or a client, a much better one comes up. And so I just have to trust that that's how it's always going to be. I don't try and, like, I love Stoic thinking. I love Buddhist thinking. I love Zen thinking. I do yoga every day. I try and manage the things that are inside my control, which the only thing that's inside my control is my mental health. And everything I can't control the virus. I can't control Sydney rising by 15% last year and dropping by 15 this year. What I can control is the way that I respond to environments and how I take advantage of situations.
You mentioned Stoicism. That's really cool.
You like that stuff?
Marcus Aurelius, meditations, and I interviewed a Stoic philosopher. He's man, like from Rome. Donald Robertson, like he wrote How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, and it's really crazy on how just exactly what you just said. You know, you just focus on how you respond, not just don't react to other outside circumstances, because you know you can't control that. Just focus on what you can control. You know,
the best thing I ever heard was I think from Seneca, and he's like, you know, because people are like, what the hell is Stoicism? But everyone knows Marcus Aurelius, like one of the greatest leaders of all time. And it's like, he said, you know, the Zen Buddhist goes and sits on top of a waterfall for his entire lifetime, and he achieves this Zen-like state. And it's like, not everyone wants to go sit on top of a waterfall, man. Like you and I would probably go fucking crazy if we did. It's like forever. You know, I'm not chasing that. The Stoic is the person with like the Zen like awareness and mentality, and but he's a functioning member of society, starting businesses, working in jobs, in being involved in the community, actually becoming a productive member of society and making the world better through like these conversations. And I loved when I heard that. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. It's like being chill, but being highly productive member of society, and following your passion, not just sitting back and, you know, collecting it for your whole lifetime, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So that leads me to the next question. What's your daily routine like? I'm thinking maybe you got some meditations. You're obviously very fit. Or what's the deal there?
You know, I've been seeing a psychologist for about 3 years because I had some massive anxiety, mainly driven from achieving everything I was supposed to and still not being happy.
Wow.
And I've always had good routines, but I've got excellent routines that work for me now. There's a really cool podcast with Jay Shetty as well, where he talks to a bloke who interviewed 1 million high performers globally in the top 10% of their industries or spaces. And he looked at, you know, what works for them. And I I just hijack good ideas, man. I don't try and like reinvent the wheel. So I've got 3 kids, man, and they're all under 7, which means my morning routine gets hammered often. Why I brought up the psychologist is because it's okay to not use that routine as a way to be in flow. It's okay to like, you know, even if you've got a great habit and routine, it's okay. I now know for it to be like flexible. Because I think for a long time I used my morning routine as like, if I do it, I'm having a good day. If I'm not doing it, I'm having a bad one. And I don't want people to think about it that way. So I get up, I hop straight into the cold pool or cold shower. That Tony Robbins thing of like, or Wim Hof thing of
showers,
yeah. Same as so many other people, man. I drink somewhere between 500 mils and a liter of like filtered quality water, sometimes with lemon in it.
Okay.
Then I'll either stretch. I'm working with this incredible dude at the moment. He's an ex-professional fighter that's got really into this Paul Chek philosophy of like aligning your body like a child again.
Wow.
So I'll either do his routine or I'll do yoga. I feel much better doing yoga because it's active meditation.
Yeah.
Then I'll like have some food. Generally, it's like either a like celery juice, or it's like banana. Like I don't like to eat straight away.
Yep.
Which is stuff that I've learned from the Taoists. And then I'll like muck around like an absolute lunatic with my kids for a while. Like this morning we chucked on shitty music and rap for like an hour and just danced, man.
On TikTok, man? You're on TikTok?
I'm only on social media for my business. I don't use it personally.
Okay, yeah.
But it was like some dumb shit you'd see on TikTok, but even worse.
Yeah.
Then if I've got time, I'll like run down to the beach. I'm like just down the road from a couple of beaches and take my dog, dip in the surf, do a few breaths, and like I call it bringing I just try and bring light into my day. Like I expel the bad shit, I bring in good stuff, and I've seen a lot of like the big dogs in Hollywood do that. And then I get stuck into my day, man. Something that I forgot to do, which a lot of high performers do, is eat during their day. You sort of get so into your work that a lot of people that I know like me don't. So I've like become really aware of that. I make sure I eat really regularly now so that my fight mode doesn't kick in. I take lots and lots of regular breaks.
Okay.
The top 1% of people in the world, man, take a 6-minute break every hour, every single one of them.
Wow. Really?
That's like really from this high performance habits thing. I was like, man, if they're all doing it, then I'm going to start doing it. I'll like cruise out of my office, man. Now that I'm working from home, we've got a spa and a pool, and I'll muck around with my kids a bit. And then on the big days, man, this is how I really maintain a good routine and mental state. I'll, on my biggest days where I'm back-to-back calls for like 8 or 10 hours, I'll immediately train with friends straight after work, just for 20 minutes, half an hour, and let go of all that, get back in my body. And then, man, I'm like Monday to Thursday. So by midday Friday, I'm like completely chill, not even thinking work or business until Monday morning when it all starts again. Like I've really focused on this morning routine and daily ritual stuff to maintain flow. Because if anyone that's actually changed the world in a positive way, not over a year, but over 30 years, has to learn how to maintain state. And one of my clients at the moment, man. Sorry, do you mind if I rant? Like I just love
go for it, bro. Yeah. Go 100%, man. I love this stuff, man. Yeah, go.
You know, his name's James Dinning. He's one of Australia's #1 chiropractors and naturopaths in the Goldie. All of his clients are like Joel Parkinson, Mick Fanning, the professional surfers, the professional athletes. And he was telling me about an exercise. Mick Fanning's got this incredible Czech trainer as well. And he started training with Mick Fanning's trainer because he's like, man, if I'm going to train, I'm going to train with the best in the world.
Yeah.
And so he gets there, and the first exercise isn't going into the gym and doing work. It's like this mental thing. And he's like, okay, I've got this puzzle, do it. And James is like, okay. and gets himself in this elevated 10 out of 10 state, does the puzzle in 2 minutes. And the guy's like, cool. Why did you take that breath? And he's like, you know, to get myself into a state to be prepared. And he's like, in your business, which is 40 clients a week for the next 30 years, if you're getting yourself in that 10 out of 10 state before everything you do, you're constantly running adrenaline, cortisol, you're constantly running at an elevated state, which is not sustainable. He's like, this time, slow down, take a breath, did the same puzzle, but a different version in under a minute. And he's like, that's how I want you to live your life. Like, live it at a 6 out of 10 as opposed to a 10 out of 10. And that one idea to just slow the hell down, simplify, and actually perform better because you're relaxed. Like, you listen to top athletes, top fighters, top musicians, top actors, top business people talk. They're doing it with ease, man. Because they understand that, like, stepping back and not hustling all the time and actually chilling the fuck out and recovering is just as important as, like, being on when you need to be.
Oh man, that's
bullshit, man.
That is good, man. Like, you've gone to the next level. A lot of people are stuck at that level where, obviously, you know, everyone's saying you got to hustle. It's like a badge of honor if you're doing your 80-hour weeks. And but you've got a lot more results, right? You've got more results out of having this balance.
Massively.
In your life, yeah? Oh wow,
man.
States and breathing, yeah.
And breathing's everything, eh? Just all day recognizing the breath and all day being aware of the thoughts that are coming in.
Okay.
You know, 3 years ago, man, when I realized I wasn't happy from achieving everything that you're supposed to achieve, like paying off the home, having the business, the beautiful wife, the kids, the bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, how do you find happiness, man? And I had to, like, look at what I value, and now I just try and make decisions towards what's important. As opposed to, like, walking someone else's version of my life. Anyone that, the thing about achieving something, and I was almost going to start a podcast called After Achievement so that I could have conversations with people like you and I that get the other side of this. You know, the skills that enable you to be successful and financially free and wealthy are not the skills that enable you to be happy once you achieve it. Because once you achieve it, man, hustling, working 100 hours a week just isn't as fun as it used to be. You know, when you've got children at home and you're working 100 hours a week and saying, I'm just going to do anything for them, but it's your fucking own ego, man, that's like pulling you in that direction. And it's like, I've really worked hard to detach from that surface level stuff and go, not what's important to the world or my family or my friends or this environment, but how do I feel today and what's going to make me feel good in this moment, plus also remembering that there's a tomorrow and making that day better as well. And, you know, it's just one tiny thing at a time, man, like, all starting with, you know, yoga, and then from that, all this weird stuff comes out of it.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's fantastic. You mentioned the keyword detachment as well, and your ego as well. So you've learned to detach your ego and to be the observer. Yeah, looking down on yourself. Yeah, okay. Yep.
Do you do that sort of work as well for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. You know, when I'm meditating, when I'm reading like a really good book on Buddhism, or I've learned to detach my own ego and just to sort of like look at yourself as like someone in a movie. You know, if you're in the ring, you're just always fighting the monsters and stuff. But if you sort of like project out and you're just a character in a movie, you just don't get so involved with all the emotions and stuff like that. And but yeah, unfortunately, I haven't reached that level of having that balance yet. I'm just still like, I got to get this done.
Same, bro. Like, you know, no one does, right? You know, like, that's a moment by moment, entire lifetime thing, man. Like, you know, you wake up one morning feeling good, you wake up the next morning feeling crappy.
I don't know why. Sometimes I wake up, oh, shit, I feel like shit today, you know. But man, I guess we're gonna make the call, you know. So.
You know, rather than letting that waking up shit affect my whole day and my week, and eating shitty food or not sleeping as well and not training or not spending meaningful time doing life enriching work or with my family. This morning I woke up feeling a bit flat. You know, the routine, like I said, everything in my life is a process. And I think if you trust that the process over time will get it's also like, you know, I went for that swim even though I didn't feel like it. I did a little workout and played with the kids, and I wasn't feeling any of it, man. But through doing that, like now I feel like, fuck, like let's have a good day and type vibe, you know what I mean? And it can turn itself around rather than lasting a week like most people get stuck in, or a month or a year, or it's like it lasts a moment, and that moment, you know, as Bruce Lee says, too shall pass. Like just let it slide by.
Yeah. Man, I'd like to hear your podcast when you launch it. You know, I think you got some really good insights that a lot of people need to hear about the other side of financial freedom. There's two people that comes to mind. There's the guy I interviewed. Oh, there's two people I interviewed. His name is Cameron Foose. He's a trader. Yeah, he's a stock market trader. You know, made millions and everything, but now he's in Bali at the moment. And he says, you know, he was depressed after when he achieved the financial freedom. And also Mike Chang as well. He's six-pack shortcuts and made millions as well. But now he's financially free. He's in Bali, but you know, he was trying to discover himself and everything like that. So yeah, it's really amazing on what you're talking about there, and I think a lot more people need to hear it, you know. So
that's just so cool that you're bringing that stuff to the world, man. And you know, that's the thing, hey, like you think it's going to be something, but then you're the same person the next day that you're financially free, and you're still looking at the same person. You've still got the same ideas that you had the day before. You've just got an extra 6 figures of income coming in a year, or whatever you think is going to change your world.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right then. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, there's like probably a few resources that I think would be super helpful for people. Like, I'm just obsessed with one thing, and that's property. You know, like there's a book and a guy called Phil Anderson. He wrote The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking.
Yep.
That book changed my life, man. Like I knew that this 2020 market was coming in 2017.
Yep.
Because he told me it was. Like in 2018, he said it's time to start getting liquid and start getting in a solid position. 19, he's like, it's time to pull money out of certain markets to get prepared. Imagine how valuable having that sort of advice week by week is in your life. Another bloke, Fred Harrison, he's a UK economist. His first book was published in 1983 called The Power and the Land, and it told people about the 1990 recession.
Oh, really? Okay.
7 years in advance, man. Like imagine having that information at that time and then being able to buy properties at 50 cents in the dollar when it came through. Then he wrote a book in 2004, 2005 called Boom Bust, and he told people the month that the GFC would hit and how long it would last for and what to do to trade it. And he published that 2.5 years before. Like those two guys, along with Ray Dalio, have been successfully trading markets and cycles for 45, 50 years, bro. Like with you don't have to try and figure this shit out on your own. It's like read a few of their books, watch a few of their YouTube things, figure out a plan for yourself and smash it, man. Like, you know, it's like figure out when you should be loaded up and when leverage is good, and figure out when you should be with good cash flow and good equity, you know what I mean? And like I said, like their stuff would have told you to buy Sydney and Melbourne in 2010, sell out in 17, you know, buy Brisbane, Perth now, sell out if you want to get out in 7 years. You know, the combination of the stuff that you mentioned from Ray Dalio is like around diversified strategies and reallocation of capital. And it's like, there's so many geniuses, you know, sharing what they've learned.
Amazing.
It's like,
you
know, it's just
so
doing the work.
Stuff. Yeah. All right, then. No worries then. Well, I think it's getting close to that. Okay. So how can people get in contact with you, Ben?
I've got a podcast at the moment called the Pumped on Property Show, which is just property plus this sort of stuff we've talked about today.
Yep.
A YouTube channel over there too, Pumped on Property, and obviously a website. You know, for those people looking to achieve financial freedom and create a property plan that are in a position to consider doing stuff, not a few years away from just saving money. You know, we offer some free strategy sessions, a very small amount each month over at our website. So, you know, book a time in and we can talk about where you are and where you want to go and, you know, take it from there, and hopefully you get some cool ideas. And if, you know, you decide and we decide that we'd like to work together, then we can maybe talk about that as well.
Awesome. Well, Ben, I really appreciate your time today, and I wish you all the best for future endeavors. I came here for the property advice, but came here with walked out with some great life advice. So I'm going to try and balance
Cheers.
myself as well. So, but yeah,
Do you ever do podcasts just for you, man, sharing your full story, or is it always interview
it's
style?
always
Because I feel
interviews,
like
but
you've got so
yeah,
much gold, bro. You
yeah,
need to
but
do one on yourself, man. I'd be so down to hear all that cool shit that you've been up to.
yeah. I had a lot of people say, "Quiet, can you just like talk about yourself for a change?" I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll
Yeah,
do
bro.
it. Yeah,
Do it,
just at the moment, I'm just trying to get as many people as possible, and then yeah, maybe I'll just do a big one or something at the end or whatever.
man.
Yeah, but I
That's
appreciate
cool,
it,
bro.
man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.